Ready? All right. This evening, if you would, turn to Matthew chapter 8. We're still in our study on the book of Matthew. Again, as we mentioned this morning, next Sunday we will be taking a break from this. We will have our Bible conference and 80th church anniversary next weekend, starting Friday evening at 6 p.m. Friday, 6 p.m. Friday evening, and then at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, and 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. So those services will be broadcast live on Facebook and sermonaudio.com and YouTube on the church's pages if you want to go and watch them there, or if you want to catch the recordings later, whichever. We've got a good lineup of preachers this time, and as usual, the Lord has always blessed us with the men He has sent to preach for our conferences, and we're looking forward to some of those being to spending some time with those folks and those men and their wives and their families. I think all of them have been here before, except for one, Brother Mike Cisna. The church he pastors traces back through King's Edition, and he's from Culver, Indiana, and he had told me he had not been here. He's driven by and stopped here at the church a time or two, but never been here for services. So he's looking forward to that. And there's some others that have not been here that often. Some of them haven't been here in a while, and they're looking forward to coming. We're looking forward to having them. So be in prayer about that. The theme this year is the perpetuity of the Lord's church. It goes along with our 80th anniversary. Not that King's Edition will be around for till the end of time. You never know. There are churches out there. There are churches that have that had started out of King's Edition, that were mission works out of King's Edition, that are no longer in existence. They've closed and disbanded for different reasons. So it doesn't mean that all of the Lord's churches are physically going to be here, but it's the doctrines and the truth that's preached. It has been preached since our Lord Himself was on this earth. Those will be taught and preached in the Lord's churches down through the ages until His return. Now, tonight we're starting a new chapter. If you remember, let me make sure I get this right. Since chapter 5, chapters 5, 6, and 7, the last three chapters have been on what most call the Sermon on the Mount, but as I've mentioned before, it's not really a sermon. It was more of a series of lessons. And it appears, from the beginning, it appears as though Jesus was teaching just the 12 apostles, but there's times in there where it seems as though there are others there. We certainly know that He had gotten away from the multitude, and He had taken a select few to the mountain, top of the mountain, to preach to them or to teach to them these things. And they're things that the early church would need to know, things that the apostles, certainly with them being the leaders and the first members of the first church and being the leaders that He would leave in charge after His ascension, would need to know, and things they would have to deal with, especially when it came to the Jews and their greatest trials and tribulations and persecutions would come from the priests at the temple themselves, the men who should have known better. And so Jesus was warning them. He was teaching them, this is what they say, but this is what God's intent was with that. And he went through things that were covered in the law that God gave to Moses, And they were things that, some of it pertained to just everyday life, to social matters. Some of it pertained to governments. Some of it pertained to spiritual matters. And so he went through and did a series of lessons on those things. And it's like he pulled them aside. They've been battling these issues for some time now. And he pulls them to the side and he said, look, this is what you've been hearing from the Jews. This is what the scribes and the Pharisees have been saying. Here's what God says. And that's what he went through and taught them. Now, in chapter 8, we take a different direction. He leaves the mountain and goes back to the multitude. In verse 1 in chapter 8, he says, when he was come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. Now, they weren't on the mountain with him, understand. They were at the bottom of the mountain waiting on him. And when he came down, they followed him. And behold, there came a leper and worshipped him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. So here's this man, he's a leper. They had a leper colony back in those days. It was outside the city walls, and that's where the lepers were supposed to stay. And this man, obviously, and that was in Jerusalem, of course. There were others around the country of Israel, from what I understand, around the nation. I don't know how many, but anyway, this man was outside of the leper colony. We don't know if he had just contracted the disease or if he's had it for a while. It doesn't tell us. But he's got leprosy, and he asked the Lord for healing, to make him clean. Leprosy was, and even if you go back to the Old Testament, to the law, you see leprosy was considered a dirty disease. It's often compared to sin. It's so foul a disease, and there's a stench that comes with it as the skin begins to rot because of the disease, and open sores and all that. And you can imagine if this man is there with the multitude, the normal reaction of the other people would have been to scatter. It might have even been that he's just there with Jesus right now, and maybe Jesus' closest followers, but nobody's going to touch this man. And Jesus touched him. We see in verse 3, and Jesus put forth his hand and touched him. Jesus didn't shy away from him, did he? He didn't tell him, leave me alone, go somewhere else. You're nasty, you're gross, you're dirty, you're unclean. That would have been the response of the priest, but not Jesus. What does he say? He says, saying, I will be thou clean. He says, I'll heal you, I'll make you clean. Be thou clean. And he just pronounces it. He did touch him, but he didn't pour holy water on him. He didn't anoint him with oil. He didn't try to exorcise a demon out of him or an evil spirit. He didn't pound him on the head and throw him to the ground. What did he do? He just touched him. And as far as we know, it could have been a gentle touch. We don't know. But he says, be thou clean. That's all he had to say. Be thou clean. How? Well, you look back, we were in Genesis this morning. Go back to we're not going to go there tonight, but if you would go back to, you get time, go back to the book of Genesis, to chapter 1. And you see all the creation. What did God do? He spoke things into existence. God didn't have to come down and physically build the earth by hand. He spoke it into existence. What do we see Jesus do many times with the miracles he performed? He just spoke, and it was done. We'll see another example of that here in a moment with the centurion. But he just spoke, and this man was healed. Nothing special, nothing like the false prophets of today that we see traveling around the world and drawing big crowds and doing all kinds of tricks, and you see them jumping around on stage and and waving prayer cloths and doing other things, and it's all foolishness and blasphemy. And they're doing it in the name of Christ. Jesus just said, "Be thou clean." That was it. And Jesus saith unto him, "See thou tell no man, but go thy way, show thyself to the priest." Now, what does he mean here? See thou tell no man. Well, Jesus is sending the man to the temple, to Jerusalem. Well, so the man is going to go there. Why? Well, remember, at this point in time, the old law is still in effect. The proper, and Jesus even encouraged this. He encouraged his followers even in that time that there were still things in the old law that were still in effect. He had not gone to the cross yet, so things were still, for the Jews anyway, things were still to be practiced. And so one of those is if a leper was made clean, they were to go to the temple and offer a sacrifice. And they were to go to meet with the priest, and they were to go there and tell the priest what had happened to them, how it had happened to them, whether it was a miracle or if it was some new drug that was out or whatever the case may be, whatever caused their healing. They were to tell the priest, and they were to offer a sacrifice. And there was a whole ritual of things they had to do. And the sacrifice had to be, if they had enough wealth, they were to use certain animals. If they were poor, they were to use certain other animals. There was a ritual to it, and it was commanded by God. And he tells that here at the end of this verse. But he says, "See, thou tell no man." So why would he tell him not to tell anyone? Well, as he's traveling, leaving Jesus and going to Jerusalem, Jesus doesn't want him to get too excited and tell people on the way, so that the priest hear ahead of time, is one way to look at it. He says, "But go thy way and show thyself to the priest." Go to the priest first. Go see the priest first. And that was the procedure. That was the process. That was how the law commanded. They were, as soon as that healing took place, they were to go their way to the priest. Don't let anybody else stop you, because what would have happened? More than likely, if he'd have stopped at an inn or someplace on the way to eat a meal or something, and he got to talking, and "Oh, Jesus healed me from my leprosy," word would have spread, and there would have been all kinds of false accusations against the Lord and against this man, and it would have got back to the priest, and the priest may have even refused his sacrifices, his offerings. And what does he show? He's showing, "Show thyself to the priest." So in other words, show yourself to the priest first, and offer the gift that Moses commanded. What was the gift? Well, it was, like I said, if you're wealthy, you were to give something bigger and better than those that were poor. If I remember right, the wealthier people were to give either a male lamb or a female lamb, and I can't remember, some birds of some kind, doves or something. For the more like middle class people, they were to give something lesser, and then the poor, they were to give just the birds. And so that was the command that Moses gave. And he says, "For a testimony unto them." So this is a testimony for a testimony unto them, which is a testimony unto the priest, to show the priest that he had truly been healed and that he was trusting the Lord. Now, the centurion, there's a centurion, a Roman centurion, and he's in Capernaum, and he's got a servant that's sick, deathly sick. And this man is a caring man. Even though he's a Gentile, he cares very much for his servants. And when Jesus was entered into Capernaum, there came unto him a centurion, beseeching him, and saying, "Lord, my servant lieth at home sick of the palsy, grievously tormented." Now, first thing we notice here, this man, the centurion, refers to Jesus as Lord, calls him Lord. And not lowercase l, but uppercase L. He calls him by Lord as though he knows him, as he knows who he is. And he says, my servant lieth at home sick of the palsy, grievously tormented. He's paralyzed, and he's tormented. He's in pain. And Jesus saith unto him, I will come and heal him. No questions asked. Jesus doesn't ask him, who is this man? What race is he? Is he a Jew? Is he Gentile? He doesn't care. He says, I'll come and heal him. Jesus already knew who he was, of course. We know that. But the centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not worthy that thou shouldest come under my roof. But speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. Again, the centurion seems to be a very humble man. So much so that because he's a Gentile, he is concerned about Jesus, this Jewish rabbi that everybody is seeing going around the country healing, and whom this man refers to Lord. Now, does he not realize that he's the Son of God? I don't know. Maybe. He's obviously sounds like he's heard of, or may have even been in the crowd when Jesus was preached. He's heard who Jesus is. He knows he's healing people. Jesus' fame has reached even to the Gentiles and to the Roman military. But he says, I am not worthy that thou shouldest come under my roof. Here's a man that's obviously, he's got a house, his own house, and he's got servants, so it's probably not a small house. Not only does he have servants, but he's got soldiers under him. He's in some kind of authority, high up authority, it appears, as far as the military is concerned. And yet he doesn't deem himself worthy to have Jesus Christ come into his house. That tells us, I think, that this man understood that Jesus was somebody special. He was of God. He was not your normal priest. He was not your normal rabbi. He understood those things. He says, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. You don't even have to come. I know how this man, he believed. He believed so much in Christ that he knew he could just speak it into existence. How did he know that? Well, one, we just saw the story of the man with leprosy. Had that story reached the centurion yet? I don't know. We don't know yet. Or we don't know, but it's possible. But there were other stories. There were other tellings of the healings of Jesus where he had done similar things. There were others that he just spoke and they were healed. So this man knew it was possible. He had faith that the Lord could heal his servant. And we look around us today, and how many of us don't believe the Lord can heal us, whether it's physical or spiritual? Now, I understand we don't see the healings like we did in Jesus' day. At least it's certainly not as numerous as what he was doing. But, sometimes the Lord sends us to a doctor. Sometimes he sends us to some other kind of health professional. Or he introduces us to some natural or even man-made medications that may help our situation or may even heal us. But do we really believe it's the Lord? Certainly it is. And in verse 9 he says, for I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me, and I say to this man, go, and he goeth, and to another, come, and he cometh, and to my servant, do this, and he doeth it. When Jesus heard it, he marveled, and said to them that followed, verily I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. So this man, again, has the authority over soldiers. It's my understanding, I think, with Centurion, there were at least over a group of 100 soldiers, and there would have been some type of military compound of some kind there in Capernaum. That's where he would have been over possibly been over that compound, or maybe just over a group of soldiers from there, but he was high up enough that he had his own house. He didn't have to live on base. He wasn't living in the barracks. He was living in his own home, had his own servant. And he tells Jesus, he said, I'm in charge, I have authority, I tell men to do this and do that, and they go and do it. I know you can do the same thing. And when Jesus heard it, he marveled and said unto them that followed. Remember, up until this point, we have not heard much about the Gentiles as far as spiritual matters are concerned. Here's a man who's obviously a Gentile. Not only a Gentile, he's a leader in the Roman army. And he seems to have more faith than those in the Jewish religion, those who are in the lineage of Abraham. Verily I say unto you, I have not found one so great faith, no, not in Israel. Jesus says, I've not seen anybody in all of Israel. And remember, by this time he has traveled around quite a bit. He's been with multitudes of people. He says, I've not found anybody with as great a faith as this man. And he's not even a Jew. He's a Gentile. And I say unto you that many shall come from the east and west, and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. And this verse seems to be a mystery to some, but if you study this verse out and you see what he's talking about here, he's talking about the Gentiles. We know after his ascension, and after the day of Pentecost, when the church began to grow and they began to scatter and go all over the earth, and they began to go into the Gentile regions, he says that many shall come from the east and the west, and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. The Gentiles were grafted in. Gentiles have the same rights as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. We have the same right to come and sit before the Lord as they do. And why does he go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Because they were the beginnings of the nation of Israel. And remember also, before God declared Abraham a Hebrew, he was a Gentile. And then in verse 12, notice he says, but the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, this kingdom he mentions here is not, notice he doesn't say the kingdom of heaven. He says the children of the kingdom. What kingdom? The kingdom of Israel. Shall be cast out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. This shall be cast out. Why are they going to be cast out? Because they're not believers. Not everybody, but there are going to be children of Israel, children of the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who are truly, physically speaking, are part of the kingdom of Israel, the nation of Israel, that are not going to be saved. They're not going to be in the kingdom of heaven. Just because you have the right bloodline does not mean that you're going to be in the kingdom of heaven. It's a spiritual matter. It's only those who are believers in Christ. And it appears as though, I believe that Jesus is telling us here that this centurion is one of his. This man seems to have been saved. He seems to be a believer. And so much so that back in verse 10, Jesus says that there's nobody else in Israel with as much faith as this man has. And then you notice he says, not only are they cast into outer darkness, there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And there's only one place, well, there's two places, but eventually one place that is talked about being dark, and there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, and that's in hell, and then later into the lake of fire. And those that go to hell are going to eventually wind up in the lake of fire. after the judgment. And Jesus said unto the centurion, Go thy way, and as thou hast believed, so be it done unto thee. And his servant was healed in the same hour. So Jesus tells the centurion, go about your business. Don't worry about it. You've believed that I can heal, and it's going to be done. So it was done, and the servant was healed within the hour. The servant was healed. He was not made better, but healed completely. Now, we're going to stop there for tonight, because I'm going to break this down in sections. In this chapter, it's a little bit longer chapter. Well, hold on. I need to finish verses 14 through 17. I'm trying to do all the healing scripture passages here in this chapter. We talked about the leper. We talked about the centurion. Now we're going to talk about Peter's mother-in-law. We'll finish with this. And when Jesus was coming to Peter's house, and this is Peter the apostle, and notice it says he saw his wife's mother laid and sick of fever. Peter had a wife. What does that do to Roman Catholicism? Remember, Peter, they claim, was the first pope. But yet their popes and their priests and cardinals and monks and whatever order they have, those men are not supposed to be married. But yet Peter had a wife. And his wife, as far as we know, he never divorced his wife. There's no mention of that. He didn't leave his wife to join the priesthood, to become an apostle. That's already happened by this time. But his mother-in-law is laid up in bed and sick with a fever. We don't know what kind of fever. We don't know what she's got, other than she's got a fever. And it's bad enough there's fear for her life. And he touched her hand, and the fever left her. And she arose and ministered unto them. So Peter's mother-in-law, Jesus touches her hand. Her fever is gone. Immediately, it appears. She got up. What did she do? She got up, and she went about her business to take care of her visitors. Notice, she was living with Peter and his wife. It was in their house, Peter's house. But she, being a woman, and especially in that day and time, one of her duties would have been to take care of her guest at the house. And so she does. She gets up and ministers unto them. And again, this word ministered, don't take this out of, take the meaning away from this. The word ministered here, the word minister in the New Testament has different meanings, like some of the other words that we've talked about. It can mean preaching. It can mean taking care of one of the Lord's flocks. It can also mean taking care of those in need. It can also mean taking care of those around us, doing our duty and taking care of those around us. And that's what this woman was doing. There was a need there. They have visitors. Jesus is there. Maybe the rest of the 12, I don't know, doesn't tell us. But he healed her, and she got up and did what she was supposed to do. Took care of the people. Verse 16, when the even was come, they brought unto him many that were possessed with devils, and he cast out the spirits with his word, and healed all that were sick. Notice it says he cast out the spirits with his word. He didn't have to lay hands on them, he spoke it, and it happened. And healed all that were sick, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, Himself took our infirmities, and bare our sicknesses. So he took away the illnesses of the people. whatever they needed healing from. He took care of it. Now, we're going to stop there for tonight. We'll pick up with verse 18 next time, and we'll try to get through the rest of the chapter. We see more of Jesus' teaching coming up, and everything he does in his earthly ministry, we see, even when he's just healing people, he's teaching a lesson also. And remember, his at least part of his apostles, not every time do we see all 12 of them there with him, but most of the time we do. He's teaching them, and they're watching, they're paying attention, and oftentimes you don't hear, you don't see where they respond, but you know they're there. You know they're watching and they're seeing what he's doing, and they're listening to what he's saying, and so all these things that we see are lessons that he has taught, and we're instructed also. That's why we read the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and we read about the ministry of Jesus because there are lessons that all of us need to learn. And so, not only people think that it's just, read the scriptures to find the gospel, and certainly we can and do, but it's not just the gospel that Jesus preached. He also preached, he taught lessons of what we consider mature Christians, and even younger Christians need to know about as far as life is concerned, and lessons on patience, on temperance, and on how to treat our neighbors, how to love our neighbors, how to treat our enemies. All of that is in these stories that we see in the four Gospels of Jesus'